What's up, Zoomers? So, disclaimer, before I teach you math today, some of you guys have been, I don't want to say complaining about my videos, but I've gotten some critiques about my videos, which is why I turned off comments. So I'm not sure why I'm getting those, but I heard them, and you guys are saying things like, Mr. Barton, your writing and your sound are off, and it's hard for me to follow because of that. So what I did is I turned into a real streamer, and I downloaded like actual streaming software instead of the built-in stuff. So hopefully that fixes this issue. If this video sucks way more than normal, it's your fault, not mine. It might be a little bit my fault, but you know, I'm gonna blame it on you guys because that's accepting responsibility for one's own actions. No way, you thought. All right, so let's do a little check here, right? Like, I'm gonna count down from 3, 2, 1, 0, and I'm gonna draw. And when I say go, 3, 2, 1, go. When I say go, I'm gonna start drawing, and we'll see if it times up correctly or whatnot. And then I'll teach you a lesson. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1, draw. Okay, was that good? I don't know. We'll see. All right, so into the video. Wait, before we get in there, right? Don't forget to hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell icon for notifications every time I upload a new video. With that being said, let's get right into it. Am I a YouTuber now, guys? All right, so you guys are gonna learn about rational functions today. I'm gonna try and make this as painless as possible for you folks. But rational, I'm gonna tell you right now, rational, that thing means fractions. Bum, bum, bum. You know, it's like, Barton, I've got 3 fears in life. Disappointing my parents, heights, being buried alive, and fractions, right? And you guys are, you know, terrified of fractions. But I'm going to try and make it okay. So let's go learn some vocabulary before we start. And then we'll do some fraction problems, and hopefully you guys live through it. All right, so the first vocabulary you need to know is rational function. So a rational function is just a function that has a fraction with polynomials in the top and bottom of it. The word rational in math is a fancy way to say fraction. It means one thing on top, one thing on the bottom. What makes it a rational function is there's an x somewhere in the bottom. It could be an x, it could be an x squared, it could be an x plus x, I don't know. But you know, it's got x's in the bottom. That's what makes it a rational function. Okay. Restrictions are restrictions on the domain. That means the numbers I'm allowed to plug in. So a restriction on the domain is a value that doesn't work when it's plugged into the function. These occur when the function is undefined. Mr. Barton, what does undefined mean? I'm glad you asked, kids. It means when something is divided by 0. When you divide by 0, it does not equal infinity, as some of you may have been misled to believe. What it means is that mathematicians do not have a way to do it. So when you ask, what happens when you divide by infinity? The answer is whatever you want, because you're breaking the rules. And if you're cheating, you might as well just cheat however you want, right? So if I say 3 divided by 0 is 7, I'm not lying. Like, it works because you're breaking rules, right? So undefined means we're dividing by 0. So a restriction will occur when the function gets divided by 0. So that means whenever the bottom of our function equals 0, we're going to get a restriction there. And I'll go over how to find those. All right. Now you know the words I'm going to say. Now let's go do some math. All right. Example numero uno. That's number 1 for those of you who don't speak Italian. To find the roots of the following function. So we want to know where are the roots of this thing. And remember, roots are the same thing as x-intercepts. So we want to know, when is this thing going to touch the x-axis? Like that, right? So we're looking for that spot and that spot. And that spot. So a root happens whenever y equals 0, right? This is -2, 0. This is -1, 0. This is 1, 0. The y is always 0. So what we want to really know is, when does this thing equal 0? So to make it equal 0, the top of this function, or the top of the fraction, has to equal 0. Because 0 divided by anything is still 0, unless you divide by 0, in which case it's whatever you want it to be, because math doesn't work there anyway, and we're just making stuff up at that point. So, whoops, that's not the button I wanted. All right, what we want to do is we want to figure out what makes the top 0. This is super easy. All you have to do is take these two binomials, or the, what's the word for these? Come on, you guys, help me out. The factors. We're going to factor some stuff later. You set these factors, or these linear binomials, equal to 0 individually. So we're going to say x plus 2 equals 0. And we'll say x minus 3 equals 0. Then you solve for x. So subtract 2 on both sides. X equals -2. Add 3 on both sides. X equals 3. So these are our two roots, we think. We think these are our answers. X equals -2, x equals 3. But on the last page, I mentioned these things called restrictions. So the restrictions happen when the bottom of this is 0. Right? So we need to set these equal 0 also to find our restrictions. And once we have them, I'll explain what they do. So same thing we did with the top, set the bottoms equal to 0. So x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0, subtract 1, x equals -1, add 3, x equals 3. So these are our roots, and then I'm just going to put rest for restrictions. Our x equals -1 and x equals 3. So these are restrictions. We're saying don't use these. So it might actually be better if we write it as x does not equal -1 and x does not equal 3. You're saying don't use these numbers. If you do, you're going to divide by 0, and then black holes happen, and up equals left, and your mom, I don't even want to get started on your mother, to be honest. So these are our restrictions. And you're going to say, but Barton, one of our restrictions is a root. You're right. So you can't say x equals 0 if x isn't allowed, or that's not 0. You can't say x equals 3 if x isn't allowed to equal 3, right? That's like your mom saying you're not allowed to eat hot Cheetos because they'll turn your liver red. And then you eat hot Cheetos anyway. What are you doing? Your mom said not to. You're not allowed to do that. So this root is what's called extraneous. All right. And now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Mr. Barton, you're being kind of extraneous right now. That's a pretty funny joke. Extraneous just means it looks like it's an answer, but for other reasons in the problem, we throw it out. So on this problem, our only root is x equals -2, because this root of x equals 3 is extraneous, because that is a restricted value of x. Good? All right, if you're not good, I didn't hear you say no because it's a video and I'm not sitting next to you, obviously. So if you're not good, you should watch the rest of the video. Maybe go back and rewatch that part, or just keep going and hope it gets better. All right, example number 2. This one is a tiny bit, hold on, sorry. That bass isn't me. I just live in the hood, and people think it's funny to, you know, ruin my YouTube videos by driving their Honda Civics around. So, you know, teachers need peace and quiet, you guys. Be respectful when you're driving your Honda Civics. Turn down that bass. All right. So to find the roots for this function, you're gonna go, Barton, this is even worse than the last one. It's a fraction and it's not factored for me. So the very first thing, step one, that you wanna do on all these rational functions is just factor everything. Factor it all. Factor that thing to death. So we're going to look at the top first and then we'll look at the bottom. Factoring here, we need two numbers that multiply to negative 18 and add up to 7. So this is going to be x plus 9 and x minus 2. And just make sure that checks out, right? 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. Bingo, check mark. And then 9 minus 2 is 7. Yup. Cool. That's not a check mark. There we go. On the bottom, we need two numbers that multiply to 27 and add up to 12. So that's going to be x plus 9 and x plus 3. All right, so now the top will give us the roots, and then the bottom will give us restrictions. Okay, so step 2, after you factored it, is find your roots and restrictions by setting the factors equal to 0. Do you want me to write that down for you? Here, let's move this. Let's scroll down a teeny tiny bit. Okay, so step 2, set factors equal to 0 to get, that's not get roots and restrictions. After we do that, step 3 will be throw, that's a W, throw away restricted roots. Okay, so if I set this equal to 0, x plus 9 equals 0, subtract 9 on both sides, x equals negative 9. That's a root, we think. Doing the same thing with x minus 2. X minus dos equals 0. Add dos on both sides. X equals dos. All right, sweet. X is 2. Okay, now we go to the bottom. So we're looking for our restrictions. Scroll down a teeny tiny bit. X plus 9 equals 0. We already know the answer. X equals negative 9. And then same thing with the x plus 3. X plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3. X equals negative 3. Okay. So we can see that we would have a root at negative 9, but it's a restricted value. So we throw that one away. One more time, this thing is called extraneous. It's an extraneous root. And then x equals 2, that's not restricted, so we keep it. This is the only place this function will cross the x-axis. All right, one more just for completeness, because sometimes you guys also complain I don't give you hard enough problems. So here's like the hardest one I could find from your homework, or inspired by, right? Based on a true story. So step 1, factor. Factor all this. Okay, so there's a GCF here. I'm gonna take the 2 out of the GC, out of the top. So it's 2x squared plus 6x plus 9. And then on the bottom, it's GCF of 2 again, x plus 3. All right, this top can be factored a little more. So we need two numbers that multiply to 9 and add up to 6. So keep the 2, or actually right now, do you see how there's a 2 on the top and a 2 on the bottom? Because there's not an x there, these do not affect our roots or our restrictions. So it's totally legal for you to just cancel those 2's out and not worry about them anymore. Okay. So on the top here, this thing can be factored a little bit more with simple factoring. This is the same thing as x plus 3 times x plus 3. All right, and then we have an x plus 3 on the bottom. Okay, so you're looking at this going, oh no, look at this. Barton, what? I hate that guy. He's such a jerk. Look at all this repeated stuff. I already know what he's getting at. I hate that guy. I know, me too, kids. That guy's such a jerk. So we're going to find our roots by saying the top equal to 0. X plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3. X equals negative 3. So that's a root. Okay. I'm going to assume I don't need to do this one because you already know the answer. It's that. So this is what's called having a multiplicity. Let me write that word out. Multiplicity of 2. It just means that the root happens twice. So you're going to say, how can you cross an x-axis in the same spot 2 times? Does your graph like do this? Does it turn back on itself, Mr. Barton? No, it does not, children. What it means is that on our graph, it's going to come down and touch it once and just bounce off of it. So it's like it touches it going down and then touches it again coming off of it, but it touches in the same spot. It's kind of weird, but this will be a lesson in and of itself later. This is not necessary for today. It's just, you know, preview. Bonus trailer, right? Sneak peek. Make sure you pre-order. All right. Where was I? Okay. On the bottom, we need our restrictions. I'm not going to do it. It's this number again because it's the exact same thing. So restrictions are x does not equal negative 3. So because our only root is a restricted value, we still have to throw it away and it's extraneous. So this problem does not have any roots. None. No roots. Okay. So unfortunately, the only place it was going to touch the x-axis, it's undefined there. It's all busted up. It doesn't work. So there is your video. Hopefully I fixed the having issues with sound and stuff. Let me know what you think. Not in the comments below because they're turned off. But, you know, tell me next time you see me. So hope it worked out, guys. Have a good day.